Ladies, if you're married, I want to remind you that one of your roles, one of your purposes, one of the jobs that God has for you is to be your husband's helper. Now, that's not your only role, that's not your complete identity, but that is something that God has purposed for you to do, and He's equipped you to do. And He's planned for you to step into that role. We know this is a role of wives because it's outlined in Genesis 2:18 when God had first created man, and then He said in Genesis 2:18, it's not good for man to be alone. I will create a helper suitable for him. Well, we are our husband's helper. So what does that look like? Well, that means you can help him through respect and encouragement. And here's what I wanted to focus on today. One of the ways that you can be your husband's helper is when you notice that he's kind of veering off course in some area of his life, maybe headed for some really destructive choices in life. You can be his helper by not lecturing him and pointing your finger at him and towering over him and shrieking at him. And no, you can be his helper by gently and humbly encouraging him to get back on the right path. What do I mean by that? Well, here's a couple of suggestions. Instead of towering over him, like let's say he's sitting on the couch and you're standing over him, pointing down at him, saying, that's probably not going to work so well. In fact, he'll get super defensive. But if you take a lower physical position, and I don't mean like, you're kneeling at his feet, groveling, but like, let's say he's sitting on the couch and you just kind of sit down or kneel, on the floor beside him, put a hand on his leg and see how now you're looking up at him. And it's a very tender, humble, gentle position. And from that position of humility and gentleness, he will be much more able to receive whatever encouragement or even gentle admonishment that you're trying to give to him. It could be anything from maybe you've noticed a trend that he's not really coming to church anymore with you guys. He seems to have come up with reasons that he's not going to go to church anymore. Or maybe you notice he's starting to drink a little bit too much too often, or whatever the case might be. Again, try that lower, humble, gentle position. Speak into his life as his encourager. Remind him that you are for him. Tell him that you're concerned and you want to know how you can help him to get back on the right path. Again, it's all about humility. In fact, speaking of humility, you might even disclose some of the things that you're struggling with. Talk about being humble, but again, he'll be much less defensive if you're able to portray humility in that conversation. Ladies, you are your husband's helper. Pray for the Holy Spirit to guide you in terms of when to speak those gentle words of encouragement and admonishment, and when to just keep quiet and help him through prayer, because that is also super powerful. And keep in mind, ladies, you may be the only person on the face of the earth who is praying for your husband. Wow, that's a super responsibility. Talk about being your husband's helper.